All right, hey everyone, I'm David Room. We're back for some more work on the retro space combat game. And I have been working a little bit on some kind of trickier things to fix off stream, so I'd like to show some of that. Uh, but we've been working on planets, orbits, gravity, stuff like that. What I'd like to work on tonight is some UI fixes. I'd like to go back and actually polish up some of the scenarios in the simulator, so we have a nice like different backdrops with some different ships and stuff that we can test, and maybe just some general cleanup and things. I have a lot of miscellaneous things to check off, but hopefully it'll be a lot of actually testing the game and kind of playing, looking for different things we might want to fix, testing the UI, and that stuff is always kind of fun. I feel like with a lot of these changes we've been making lately, the game is really starting to feel a lot more real in terms of the UI and the level of polish in the UI. And I've been having a lot of fun with it. So I'm going to start some music. We're going to get some White Bat cyberpunk industrial fight music duel going, and I think it kicks off with one of my favorite tracks. It's been a while since we listened to this particular mix, but I want to listen to something driving tonight, so let's get that started, and we'll go here. So just to show off some of the things that I've been working on off stream. There have been some kind of long-standing issues with collisions, and especially how collisions were working with the new physics stuff, where we're actually fighting in orbit, and we have this high velocity and gravity and stuff like that. And I think most of those are fixed, and I'm gonna just show a little bit what was going on. So this is far from perfect yet, but what we were seeing before is we were seeing like all these crazy bounces, especially off the bigger ship on the station. We're kind of not seeing that anymore. And what was going on there is that when I was calculating angular impulses, I was actually missing a degrees to radians conversion. So some values that were in degrees were being treated like they were in radians, which was causing this crazy angular difference, and that was getting put, like when you have these things interacting, some of the angular component can end up being coming into the linear component. So that's kind of where we were getting some crazy rocketing, and this isn't perfect yet. Obviously, I think I've got some ways to handle it, but overall, I think collisions are looking a lot better. I think for some of the bigger ships, we're going to have different ways of handling things, but overall, it's just looking a lot better. And I think some of the issues just in general are going to be handled by altering the ship's behavior trees to be more cautious. See, like, look at that. Like, that actually looks pretty good. Making the ships a lot more cautious about colliding into things, especially the bigger ships. Yeah, so that is looking a lot better. And if we get to it tonight, we might mess with those behavior trees a little bit, but we'll see. Now, another thing that I fixed, and I'm going to, Doug Wise says, "Ha, that'll do it." And he says, "Man, that is good looking ship versus ship interaction." Yeah, it would look even better if I actually was letting that big ship fire and I was letting myself be controlled with a behavior tree instead of flying with the arrow keys. But yeah, I think overall stuff is looking a lot better. So the other thing that I fixed, and actually just for kicks and giggles, let's turn on a couple things. I see Ankit is here. He says graphics look fire. Hey, thank you so much. I've put a lot of work into this, so it's I'm glad you like it. Okay, what we'll do here is actually I'll make myself indestructible so I don't get blown up right away. But we'll give that big ship some of his turrets back. Maybe we'll just give him the first 3. We'll see how long I can survive against him here, and I will give myself the default behavior tree. See, like, I'm not nearly leery enough of not hitting things, right? So that's something that needs to be fixed. I'll make myself actually indestructible. What we're gonna try doing today is sketching out some different scenarios in the simulator. See, like I just accelerate right into that because of the way collision detection works, and that shouldn't happen. There, I'm kind of spinning out of control because he's hitting me pretty good. But see, like his interaction with the station is he's bouncing around, and there's probably too much angular stuff going on, but he's not getting like these crazy slingshot stuff going on anymore. So I'm still spinning out of control. I can experiment with some of the damping. I'm sort of doing some artificial damping of the angular impulses. So let me actually I do this. Let me see if that fixes that. Let me get a little bit over here before I turn on my behavior. Yeah, see, like, the default behavior is not nearly leery enough of collisions. Oh, that's another thing I should fix is the drop camera. I'm not sure what I'm not firing right now. Something happened to my weapons. Are they overheated or something? Oh. I saw this bug before. The weapons are being fired, but they're invisible. Okay, so that would be a good thing to fix. So another thing that I fixed a couple other things relating to the sort of reference point stuff. So before, I don't know if you remember when I added the, when I added the, when I added the, I'm gonna stop him from firing at me. When I added the orbits, right? So at this moment we are actually orbiting this planet, right? And when I added that, the shadow maps were flickering because we're moving. I updated the function that does the stable shadow maps to use the whatever your sort of like the orbital reference frame as the stable point. So here we're tracking the station. You can see this circle here. So you know, anything that is not moving relative to that point, the shadow maps are the big shadow map is going to be stable for. So the shadows are nice and stable, and it should work in external camera mode too. So as we look around, that, you know, anything that has the shadows from the big shadow map, they should be very stable. Now, the other thing is that this was also a problem for this grid. So this grid is also fixed to the reference point. So before, this grid was moving like crazy. Now if we drop that reference point, right, then now we're using a sort of global reference point, and we can see that stuff moving. And the shadow map, if we could see it there, would be flickering, but we don't really want that, right? Let's catch back up to the station here. One thing that I might need to do at some point here is make it so that individual entities can have different reference points. Right now it's kind of like the whole game uses that thing as a reference point. It doesn't really make sense for me as a player to be able to control it. Like, it would be probably set per mission and fixed to be that station or whatever, like whatever the encounter area is. But yeah, so you can see now that we've got the station as our reference point again. Those shadows are nice and stable. And if you remember the way we're setting up our skyboxes now, we have a realistic size sun disk for Venus. You know, the sun is hitting the planet from the right angle, all that good stuff. We're modeling that orbit. It's all good. So that stuff is all working. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to build out a couple of these like arenas, basically, so we can easily play with them in the simulation mode, and maybe kind of like going through the process of building them out. We've built them out in a couple different scenarios. If we go through the process of building them out in the simulator module, we'll start getting an idea of the abstractions that we want to have for building these things. You know, like, what's the right abstraction for a function that does this layout of the planets and stuff. So yeah, let's let's get started with that. Let's close all of this. Oops. And then if we can get a couple of those things built out, then there's a couple of UI things that I want to start experimenting with too. But yeah, we'll just see how far we get. And then we can swap a couple of these things around. I think, let's see, where is it? There's a content constants, I think, right? Where is that? Where is that? Here we go. Yeah, so just for now we'll build out a couple of these. These two are going to have a station. Well, this first one is going to have a station. This one is going to have a few yachts as kind of a obstacle. I could actually have a bunch of them. That might be kind of cool. In the scenario that I have this set up for now, there's 4. And then this one will have a moon, but not any station or anything. We could do another zone that's got that station with the rings. We could do that as just like a we could just call that Earth Elf 4 or something. That might make sense. Let's call it station for now. Okay. Maybe we'll, let's see here. Maybe we'll make a simulator missions. Module here, and then when we launch, this builds the ships that we've selected. Let's see, what do we need for the zone? We need the skybox stuff and the ships for the zone. Is there anything else? I don't think so. We might, let's see here. I think we might need to add some yeah, we might have to add something here for the affiliations for whatever ships kind of come with the zone. Which may or may not overlap with our factions that we selected. And this will be entity. And geez, I have like none of these types imported here. Skybox object. It's just a tuple of something. Okay, so and then we'll just return ships, skybox launch. So we'll just pull these from here. So sim dot How do we do it? I think I just have like ships. Yep, I have ships in a launch function, so we'll just do a ships. Do I have lot as an argument for ships? Yeah. So we'll keep our standard ships function. Actually, just stub all of these out here. I could have a nice title for each of these too. That shows when we start the scenario. That would be cool. Just for a little bit of flavor. I like the idea of the simulator being sort of a nice way to test out different scenarios. Start nailing things down a little bit in terms of some of the actual missions and locations of the game, and starting to polish things up a little bit. And probably some of these, like some of the skybox setups here. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need the skybox, but I also need the bodies. Okay, Kirsch E4W is here. He says, hi, hello. Hope you're having a good evening. So, actually, we'll set up... we'll make some skybox functions here. So we'll do like Luna skybox. Venus skybox. Kirsch E4W says, how you doing? I'm doing great. It is Thursday night. The week is almost over. Work week is almost over. Getting a little Work done on the project finally after a long week. Um, actually did a fair amount of work on this project during the week with getting some like little miscellaneous things done, but now it's time to get some nice polished things done that make for good screenshots and good sharing. So that's what we'll try to do now. Um, okay, so let's just build out one of these for now. Actually, we can... I think can... I don't know if Skybox can be none. Oh, nice. So Kirsch E4W says, I'm learning Python currently. Nice. I love Python. So Python has kind of been my bread and butter for the last, I don't know, 10 years. And I think it's one of the best programming languages ever, if not the best. And I think sometimes people are surprised that I'm making a game in Python, but you can make anything in Python. That's one of the great things about it, is it really is a serious programming language that you can use for anything. And what's fun is when you've worked in it for a while, like me, you have a lot of projects and all these different pieces that do different things all in Python, and you can mix and match them and mash them together and rearrange them in it, and it all works together, and it's a lot of fun. All right, let's get a Venus skybox going here, because I think that's what we have, right? Actually, no, do we not? I don't know what we have for a skybox here, if anything. Yeah, okay, so it's just a blank skybox, basically. Apps. Yeah, okay. Okay, we're gonna have to pass base and game into these. Yeah, okay. So base, game. Kirsch E4W says, can you give me any tips or advice? I'm trying to learn, but it's hard because I'm learning from a YouTube course. I want to get into AI and machine learning. I love to code, but I don't know where to start. Awesome. I think you came to the right place. So in my day job, I have been working in machine learning and AI and computer vision for 10 years or so. My advice about learning is, tutorials are good, but I think the best way to learn is to choose some kind of project that's interesting to you. It doesn't have to be something that doesn't exist or nobody has ever built before, right? My project here that I'm working on here is a space combat game. It's not the first space combat game that's ever been made. It won't be the last, but it's something that I'm interested in, and I'm using it as a way to learn about physics and some math and game development, different things I'm interested in. So I would say try to I would say come up with some problem that's interesting to you in machine learning or AI, and start from that project, and then try to build it, and try to learn the things that you need to learn to build it, and start from the angle of building the thing rather than learning the language, and I think you'll have more success maybe than following a course. I definitely, like, if maybe this is like the first time you've ever programmed or done any coding, there's definitely some basic things to understand, but I honestly think uh, projects and yeah, projects and sort of like a focused on like trying to do something is the best way to learn programming. I've learned many new languages throughout my career, and it always works best when you have something that you're trying to do, right? You're not just saying like, "Oh, I'm going to learn C++," right? You want to try to build something with C++ or Python or whatever. Um, as far as machine learning goes, I mean, there's so many nice things that you could build. You know, whether it's something with an LLM or some kind of image processing or computer vision problem, um, and you can do a lot in machine learning even with very basic hardware. So you don't necessarily need the fanciest computer or GPU or whatever to do some fun stuff with machine learning. Like if you want, you could uh, design your own little neural network architecture and train on MNIST and see it work. That's a great starter project in machine learning that would definitely teach you a lot about um, how these things work. Let's see, where's my load functions? Chips. That's crazy. Chips. Oh, I don't need to do that here. I can. Chips. What am I calling this? This is a real mess here. Load chips. Info. Oh, I see why I did that. But see, I could do that. I could do that here. I mean, let's see here. Like in most of these, right? I think I call that from the launch function where I already have the game. So we've got it. We can swizzle this stuff around here a little bit. Okay, let's halves game.load functions. Okay, so Kirsch E4W says, so I have like ideas, but I don't have like team or skills. If I want to build something very secure software, something I should go with C and use cryptography. I mean, I think if you're just trying to learn, I wouldn't worry too much about security. I will say in my career as a ML, like applied ML researcher, I pretty much never think about security. So I mean, like if you're interested in security, for sure, you could go after that. But if you're interested in learning programming, AI, and ML, I wouldn't worry too much about. I wouldn't worry about that. And you know, you might feel like your first project has to be like an app or something that other people could use. I would probably recommend just starting with an application that runs locally, and then you don't have to worry about security or networking or things like that, and you can kind of understand how it works um, at a more in a more confined level, I would say. I'm gonna do a couple little checks here. Make sure we're not losing anything. Okay. Yeah, we don't need a load functions here, because we can use the game's load functions. Okay. Kirsch E4W says, I have this question. Sorry I'm disturbing you. You're not disturbing me at all. It's fun to talk with the chat. So, Kirsch E4W says, I use AI and use it for coding also, but if I share ideas or code to the AI, the data goes to server, is actually safe. Or I mean always. So you're kind of asking, like, is it safe to share your code? Yeah. So you said I removed the option to use data for training, but yeah, I mean, I have thoughts about this. I mean, I think if you remove the option where you're having it use the data for training, I think that's as good as you can do. I would be very surprised if these companies are using your code to train on when you have that option unchecked, because that just seems incredibly dishonest. That being said, I mean, the way these models are trained is like they basically just scrape the internet for everything and trained these models really without people's permission. And I think like there's some debate about whether, for instance, like Copilot was trained on private Git repositories. I think the official word is that it wasn't, but it definitely, they scraped everything public. I don't know if you're putting your code that you're developing like in a public GitHub repo or if you're keeping it private. I think at this point, you know, just if you're using AI for coding and you don't want them to train on your data, like keeping it in a private repo and then removing that option is the best you can do. And you know, if they do use it, it's kind of a needle in the haystack kind of scenario at this point. I think we're kind of past the models sort of like just regurgitating people's code. I think they have such a huge capacity, and you know, the harnesses are so complex and everything that, you know, and the iteration for like retraining is so slow that I don't know, at this point I wouldn't really worry too much about how your code is used for training. Like for me, I have my code, a lot of my code in most of my code is in private GitHub repos and in the AWS cloud, and I don't use AI coding directly on most of my personal projects, so I kind of avoid this issue that way. But I mean, at the same time, I think that's kind of the trade-off of using AI, is, you know, if you're using AI, you're using you're kind of using other people's code that was trained on without their permission, right? So in some ways, I kind of feel like if you're using AI for coding, you almost sort of have to be okay with somebody using your code for training, just morally. Um, I don't know. I haven't thought a lot about this too much lately, but um, yeah, it's interesting to think about. I use Cloud Code for work a lot, and I believe I went in and I removed that option, so it shouldn't be using my data for training, but I don't know. I don't know what that means. Okay, and let's just for now, let's just grab this empty skybox, right? I hope that answers your question. Okay, yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, Kirsch E4W says, so I was worried I started using local AI model. It's crazy that big companies like OpenAI and DeepMind want users' data. I mean, yeah, so that's one thing you can do is you can use local models. There's some pretty good local models at this point that you can run on not too much hardware. I don't think it's really crazy that big companies want users' data because they need data to offer these services, right? They have to get that from somewhere. They either have to make it themselves, which I think they did at the beginning with a lot of the training data for like GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. But now, I mean, the way they're improving these tools is by using users' data, and I think, you know, they're kind of the ones who are curating and spending the money to train, but people who are using the services get the benefit of that. Um, you know, I'm not crazy about. One of the reasons that I'm not personally so crazy about AI is like I don't really feel like it was morally right for these companies um, to just take everybody's code without permission and train on it. The way that's played out, because this has been a few years now since that happened, is like a lot of people just don't really seem to care. I was kind of expecting a lot more pushback on that than there has been. And I think at least for software, you know, I think software people kind of agree that coding models are a huge boon to productivity. So I think there's sort of like a collective feeling like, okay, these companies took our code to train on, but now we're reaping the benefits of AI coding, so that's okay. I think artists have a lot different opinion about like AI models for art than coding people do. But yeah, it's kind of a, you know, I think it's good that individuals have different feelings about it, and I think local AI is definitely a good thing. Like if you are able to do what you want to do with local models, then I think you should. And I wish some of these big companies would release more open source models, because I think that's good for everybody. I wish Anthropic would release some kind of open source model. Like, I wish they would release, you know, like one of their old haiku models or something. I think that would be really cool. You know, they've certainly benefited from taking everybody's data as much as anybody else, so. Okay, let's see if this works. We've got an empty skybox. All of these are just returning an empty list, but basically this stuff, as we've wired it up, should work. Too many values. Okay. Okay, ships zone first, then the skybox object, and then the bodies. Oh, okay. Kirsch4W says, what's your favorite AI? Okay, so that's a good question. I mostly use at work, I mostly use Claude Code. And I quite like all of the Claude models that I've used in Claude Code. A lot of people complain, so I'm on Twitter or X a lot to kind of get the feel for what people are saying. I know the OpenAI stuff is kind of in favor now, but people are always going back and forth, like complaining about how models feel. You know, like, oh, this model talks back too much, or it says things, or it talks down to me, or whatever. I really don't have any day-to-day experience with that. I feel like in Claude Code and in Cursor, so in Cursor I tend to use Claude models too. They just work well, and they aren't sycophantic. They are like a good partner to work with. They generally do what I say. So yeah, I think the Claude stuff is good. I would be interested in trying the new OpenAI stuff though. I've heard a lot of really good things about it. But I don't know, like my experience with using a lot of these models is they just work. I don't really have to fight with them too much. And I don't have a sense of like, oh man, I wish they could do more. They just kind of do what I want them to do. And you know, I'd be interested in trying other models, but it's not like I need them, you know. The current models seem to work fine. And there hasn't been a noticeable difference for me in my work since like last year when I started using them. They just kind of work. And, you know, one version to the next, it's not like a huge difference for me. So, do you, Kirsch E4W, do you have a favorite AI that you like to use for your coding stuff? Okay, so this build zone stuff is definitely working. I think what I'm going to try to do next is get some of these different skyboxes going. So, okay, so yeah. Kirsch says, I love using Claude Code and Kimi. Yeah, I've heard really good things about Kimi. I know that, is it Kimi K2 that people like to run locally? Like if you have a big, like Mac Studio or Spark or something. It's so cool that these open models are good, like good enough at this point. I did a bunch of work last fall with Sonnet. I didn't have enough usage to really be able to use Opus a lot for what I was doing. So I just did a bunch of work with Sonnet and it just worked great, you know, like, and all these models now on the benchmarks, they're doing just as well as Sonnet. It's awesome. Okay, so for anybody who's joining, we're working on some scenarios for the simulator where we are working on uh, getting these different zones that we can select in our simulator, in our combat simulator mode, to load different skyboxes and sets of ships. So nice. Okay, so Kirsch E4W says, "Good job with the game and graphics, looks good, and I love Claude, but lately I can't buy it. What are your opinions in AGI, and what do you think of it?" I mean, in my opinion, AGI is sort of here. I don't have this idea of like there's gonna be these super intelligences that are like entities that are conscious or anything like that. I mean, I just think a lot of what people thought AGI would be like, LLMs and harnesses can do. And I'm much more interested in what things can do than what they are. And, you know, machines aren't people. So I don't really have a problem with saying, oh, this is AGI, or this isn't. Like, it doesn't, the precise definition of what is AGI and what isn't doesn't really matter too much to me. I mean, I've been working in AI for years, and I'm pretty surprised at how well a lot of this stuff works. I don't think there's too much point in I've never been somebody who's arguing that this stuff won't work or can't work. So I don't really have a problem with saying, oh yeah, it's AGI. You know, certainly we should all be honest about what the capabilities of the tools we're using are. But I think the name that you call it is not like super important. Okay, I just realized something else, which is well, actually, no. We don't need to sync up the, okay, I gotta think about how we've got to sync up the skyboxes with the velocities of the ships that we set up. But let's try to get something going here. So just use this blank one here, this blank one here, blank one here, and we'll focus on this one. So this one is going to be using this Venus skybox. And this we can kind of copy from mission 1, how we're setting up the skybox. So Kirsch E4W says, "Are you an AI dev? So if AGI is achieved, what is the first question you will ask?" And I'm really sorry I'm asking like too much questions or disturbing. Absolutely not. It's fun talking to the people in the chat. So I am an AI dev. I work in AI and applied machine learning and computer vision. I mean, like I said, I think AGI basically has been achieved. I don't think of AGI as something that is like AGI just means artificial general intelligence, right? So it just means like systems that can sort of, in my opinion, like they can do tasks that they're not necessarily trained specifically to do. And I think we're there already with stuff like Claude Code. I think that a lot of the hard questions are not a matter of like a system being able, like an LLM being able to answer it. Many great problems just require lots of compute, and not even compute in the sense of like training ML. They require compute for running simulations, like physics simulations or chemistry simulations, or protein folding or whatever. So I think these AGI systems can like coordinate those experiments, but they're not necessarily going to have like magical insight into those problems that we don't already have. And there's a lot of compute that's going to be required to run simulations to answer important questions, for a long time. And I don't think that's going to go away. Like, I don't think we're going to suddenly discover things that just short circuit a lot of the need to run intensive simulations to solve different problems, like for drugs or you know, material stuff. You know, it could be that we make some crazy discoveries that make those things easier to solve, but I don't really see that happening. So I don't know. Does that sort of answer your question? That's where my mind goes when people ask questions like, what would be the first question that you would ask AGI? I mean, I think, to summarize, I think AGI is already here. You know, I use Claude Code every day. I don't ask it questions. I tell it to do things. I tell it to do the tasks and help me accelerate the tasks and run the experiments and build the analyses and visualizations and tools that I need to do my job. It's not like I'm asking it to solve big questions or answer big questions for me. Does that make sense? Okay, let's try to get this Venus skybox here going. So okay, so Kershi4W says, so I created software like AI Personal OS. It's like a group of AI agents that work together. Like your own Java set is like personal assistant that works for you, and I stopped it. Why did you stop it? It sounds like a fun project. I've not done a lot with agents for things outside of work. But like 2 months ago. Okay, so you stopped it a couple months ago. Did you stop it just because you ran into problems, or you kind of like, I know you said you sort of quit using Claude Code. This is kind of interesting, separating out the code for the planets versus the ships. Not sure this is definitely like moving in the right direction, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's gonna sort of do what I want. Okay, so Kirsch E4W says, no, like I was thinking about it and I asked myself who will be the end users and who will use it. And I was like, anyone, but anyone is very wide, so I thought it won't work. I quit it. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, one of the joys of building software is like, you can just build things for yourself, right? Now, I mean, like in my job, in my day job, I'm employed to build software for, you know, specific users. But for my personal projects, I just build the things that I want to use. I mean, like this game is something that's fun for me to work on, and people seem to like watching me work on it. And it's a fun project, but like, I don't know if anybody will ever buy it. but it's a fun project. And that's one of the joys of software, is like when you can program or build software, using AI or whatever, you have the power to build those things that you want to use. And it doesn't really matter whether other people want to use it, or whether the appeal is too broad or too narrow or what, right? I think there is a danger with AI just being able to very quickly build software that doesn't have a real purpose. And like whenever I hear about people building these sort of like generic systems for orchestrating agents or monitoring agents, I'm just like, is that actually a useful thing? But I mean, that's a question for you to answer, right? Is this useful for me? And if it's useful for you, then go for it and build it and enjoy it. I would say don't let the target audience issues stop you from building software for your own enjoyment. Especially if you're learning, right? I mean, if you're just learning how to program and write code and build things, you don't have to be building anything for anybody. You can just build things for your own enjoyment. Okay, now okay, yeah, this is where we're gonna have to get into this, and this is interesting. Maybe what we do okay, I think I know what we want to do. We want to set up all of this. We want to do all this orbital velocity stuff in our outside of our ship's functions in the mission setup. That's what we want to do. So okay, let's see first of all if this works. And then let's see here. Game dot. So when we initialize the game here, we gotta add our celestial bodies. Okay, so here's another good question. Kirsch E4W says, what keyboard do you use? I want to build software and hardware like AI chips, but what do you say or roadmap? I mean, okay, so hardware is completely out of my wheelhouse. Like building AI chips, that's very, very technical stuff. I'm sure there would be better people to talk to about that than me. What keyboard do I use? That's a good question I can answer though. So I use, my main keyboard is a Keychron. It's a Keychron K8. So this is it here. I have kind of a collection of mechanical keyboards though that I cycle through. None of them are very expensive. I kind of like having a variety of things rather than like one super expensive keyboard. One of my favorite keyboards though is a vintage keyboard. This is an Apple Extended Keyboard 2 from around 1990. And yeah, this is a really cool keyboard. It has So most of my keyboards have tactile switches in them, and this keyboard has tactile switches, but they have like a very they're Alps cream switches, and they have a very distinct, unique feel to them compared to modern tactile switches. So if you ever come across a Apple Extend keyboard, they're great. I need to clean mine though. I don't use it too much because it has a couple keys that repeat. So Kershi4W says, I'm trying to buy a mechanical keyboard, but it's too expensive. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your budget is, but, or where you live, but, in the US, there's a lot of mechanical keyboards that you can get for under $100, like maybe like $50 or less even. And I bet, you know, if you looked for used ones, you could find one for cheap. I've gotten like these little Logitech low profile keyboards off eBay for cheap, or like sometimes I even find them in thrift stores. So that's kind of fun. Or vintage ones, like you can find some kind of lesser known vintage brands for cheap and then get adapters. Okay, let's see if this stuff works. Do I have any extra keyboards? Yes, I have a lot of extra keyboards. Okay, so let's change this to... Okay. That makes sense that did that. Okay, let's actually just switch around the zones here. I'll put this one first so we can just launch and see this error right away. So for anybody who might be joining, we're working on wiring up some stuff that is letting us choose. Oh, that did not work. Why didn't that work? Wait, did I not save this? Oh, I know what's going on. Wait, what is... Okay, so Kirsch E4W says, so I said I'm learning Python, right? So like a course which teaches Python like 2 hours, I can watch that and learn AI libraries, or another one course is like 12 hours, it covers but long and slow. Yeah, I mean, again, I think you know, courses are fine, but your best bet is probably just to try to build a project. And you seem like you're using, you know, you're using some tools like Claude Code and everything. So, you know, try to build a project and then just talk to those AI tools about what you're doing and ask them to explain it. I think you might have a better time with that as opposed to a course. Let's see here. Why? List. Something is going on here where my zones is not being initialized like I think it should be. Oh, maybe it's, I know what it is. There's a config. Yeah, there it is. Let's actually just set this to zone 0. Yeah, exactly. So Kershi E4W says the best way to learn programming is to actually program rather than watching, right? Yeah, I mean, there's certainly value in watching, and I mean, like, I love listening to podcasts and live streams and tutorials and things, but I do a lot of that, you know, in the background when I want to be distracted, or, you know, like if I'm just doing the dishes or something. When I'm trying to actually learn something, I try to do focused work, right, where I'm actually in it. Okay. We've got this division by 0 error here. So I think what is going on here is we're setting some things. Yeah, I mean, we're setting some things. We've got more than one thing at 0, 0, 0 here. Yeah, we're not setting this up properly. Where am I setting? Oh, here it is. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, so yeah, I actually have to. Yeah, so when I set up these things in the skybox, I need to set their positions. But it's like I have the collection of things, and then I have the specific setup for the scenario. How do I want to handle this? I could do the radius factor as an input to this, and then I could pull that out. Later. Let's try that first. Okay, so Kirsch E4W says, tell me something, a small project or something, I will build it. Yeah, so, I mean, I think everybody should come up with their own projects, right? You know, find something that's important to you. But if you're trying to learn machine learning, I would say a good project would be to build your own just from scratch. And I mean, don't ask Claude Code to do it for you, but try to do it yourself, or if you are using Claude Code, you know, understand the different parts of it. But I would say a good project would be in PyTorch, build a small neural network and train it to classify MNIST. So MNIST, I'll just type it in the chat, is a data set of handwritten digits, and it's not very hard to write a neural network that you can train to quite good accuracy on detecting handwritten digits. You could even make a little UI where you could draw your own digits in and get the classification out, and that's fun. Several years ago, I actually wrote a neural network in Python just using NumPy, not using a neural network library that could classify that. So you can that's a nice challenge if you want to go a little bit deeper, is actually write the back prop. Write the back prop yourself, and you'll definitely learn a lot of math. But that's, I don't know if that's a level of detail that you need to go into. You know what? I think I want to have the zone function return all of this stuff. And then that way I can have yeah, this is definitely what I want. I can have this this. Oh, interesting. Okay, then that would make me pass base game in here, but that's okay. I can do that. Let's just try this. So this kind of combines a few things together, but oh nice. So Kershi4W says, I trained a 8B AI model in Google Colab for my own use to help me with tech projects. Did you, I mean, if you've done that, then maybe training MNIST or designing MNIST is a little bit, beyond you. But I mean, certainly it's possible to do some of those things in Colab, like with Claude Code, without understanding too much of what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, whatever is getting you towards your goals, I mean, go for it. Nice. So Kirsch E4 says, good job with the game. Keep going. See you in the next live stream. I guess after watching you, I want to code and learn. Thanks, man, for helping me. Thank you very much. Awesome. Glad I could help. And good luck in your pursuits. Be sure to subscribe too if you haven't already. And yeah, good luck. Oh, nice. Yeah, you have a good evening. Yeah, okay, so this way the skybox stays generic, and then we can set up things sort of specifically the way we want here. And I think the way I'm doing it in mission 1 is that when I make that station, I'm making it be I should be making it basically at 0, 0, 0, which is what we want. And then it will move away from that as it orbits. Okay, so here's our station. And then what we'll do is we'll set up the orbital velocities here. And this would be ships, skybox, JM bodies. Now, okay, so I've got to think about this. So I definitely want to set this. Okay, now I'm second guessing myself again. Okay, I definitely want to set the position of the bodies here, but I don't know if I necessarily want to set the orbital velocities here. That might be better to do farther out. Okay. Okay. Sun position is going to go in here. Because we need to pass that into there. But we're not setting the positions on anything otherwise. Man, this is really kind of dense to detangle this. Position. Okay, now okay, we do need the, okay, so we do need to have these positions defined before we go in here. So maybe, let's see here, do we do the sun position, and then we do first, and then we do like Venus position. Probably, right? Yeah, we've got it. We have to do that here. Because they have to be set up in the right position. Well, let me think about this. I think this is fine. I think this is a good, actually this is a good way to force, like if you're going to build this, you should know the positions before you build it. So yeah. Okay. I'm pulling more and more parts out of this. I'm not sure. I think we've got to decide. We've either basically got to get rid of this, or we have to decide that these things don't matter. And I think actually they don't matter. I don't think it matters to have the planet position come in here. I think that cleans things up. Okay, yeah. So I'll just make a note. We only need, and that actually we don't. This only needs to be the unit. So, yeah, we're actually golden here. We don't need any of this. Okay. Now we can do all of our planet setup. We can do all of our planet setup outside here. So now we can basically do this stuff. Yep. So basically, we're working backwards from the position of the station, which is going to be at 0, 0, 0 when we start the simulation, and then and then we're working backwards to where the position of the sun and the position of Venus is. Because the default planet position is at -1. So we kind of have the sun over here and then the planet position here, right? It's kind of working through this again. Let's just move this sort of top. Okay. And then I think we're good, right? We can take game.load functions here. And then ships is just going to be yep. And then just to make it clear, okay, let's see if this works. So what I'm expecting to see is that station to race off, because, okay, so something here is the same. So the sun, let me just look at some of these positions. Something is going on here. So, in the skybox. Oh, I know what's going on. When we're running this initial update, think it just doesn't like that these initial positions are 0, 0. So let's just give them a goofy position for the initial update. Whew. Okay. Yep, and I know what's going on there. Station should actually do this 99. That should fix that. Okay. Okay, we're getting really close here now. It's just some things are getting swapped around. Okay, so the sun position comes first. Okay, good. And this is more or less what we expected to see. The station's right there. And it is, you know, we're not synced up in orbit. Let me increase that default engagement zone size so we're a little farther away. Config. Oh no. Oh, did I do this? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And we see that falling towards the planet because we don't actually have the orbital velocity set up. So let's do that. So the challenge here is we've got to think, okay, how are we going to take this sort of arbitrary set of ships and locations that we have and the station and get them all synced up? Let's let's see here. Is there more info that we want to return from here? We probably want to return if there's a reference object, right? So if there is, let's see here. So what do we have here? Ships, skybox, bodies. Let's just make this a tuple. So graph equals none, but in this case, int graph equals ships 9. Let's actually put this guy at the top. Okay, now we should all be falling towards the planet now. Okay, so that is working. But what we want now is we want to, let's see here, should we just say that we should adjust everything? Yeah, so like if, basically if entref is not none, then we want to add whatever the velocity of that thing is to all of the other ships, right? I think that's it. So for ship in ships, ship, and so we say ent in ships factions, int.phys.pause plus equals int ref.phys, what, not pause, pause. Okay. Now we just, yeah, we just have to set the velocity of the station correctly. So pause. And then we can do all this stuff where Yep, station.phys.epox equals. Okay, now that should put everybody in roughly the same orbit. Oh, didn't iterate correctly. Okay. Now, let's see here. Do our orbits look right? Are we falling out of the sky? Okay, there we're missing aphs, so we can just add a general thing here where so we just got to basically add any factions any new factions in ship's zone as neutral. So for ent in ships, if ent dot, so why is it not ships zone is a dict of int state. So ent dot faction does not equal faction, and ent dot faction is not two faction. Then we'll add it as a neutral. So aphs one faction we just got to do the different combinations here. None for F2. It feels good to plow through a bunch of this logic. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this looks good. Now, see, we're getting this orbital elements problem here, which I don't like. That's something I gotta, excuse me, I gotta figure out, but it seems like we are not falling out of the sky, and we're all kind of in sync here in orbit. So that is pretty much what we want, right? So like we know if there's a reference entity, we want to start everybody with that um, same velocity, and then we'll roughly all be in orbit. Okay. Well, I mean, this is basically what I wanted. Let's I feel like we've kind of been through the painful part of doing it once. Let's try to do it with the other scenario, right? So and this isn't ships anymore. This is kind of like the whole scenario, right? So tips skybox place, and then eventually we don't want to hard code this. You know, actually, let's just fix that right now. And turn this. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's. Yeah. Now that we've gone through this, let's try to do the Junia's. Well. This, yeah. This actually should be a different set of ships, but it's okay that I did the station for it. Let's do this one, and this one is maybe yeah, okay, so for now we will do the same thing where we just use that same station, but we need to fix yeah, use yachts instead of, and maybe use like a nav point or something for yeah, and see, this is manageable, right? Sort of like a page of code. And we have factored out some things, right? Like so we can do something similar here with Umbriel Skybox. So we're gonna need these same two things. Or three things. And then the fun thing is we'll be able to actually reuse these. We'll actually be able to reuse these when for other missions, right? If we find the right abstractions, we can kind of reuse them in different spots. And this is going to be a lot of basic game. Again, sun position unit, right? That is kind of slick. I think this is... Okay, now here we're not setting up the sun, right? So we're just doing planet and moon in bodies. And that's should be okay for now. And then now we set things up here. And let's so then this will be the station that we create here. All right. Doug Wise says, I think it's possible I've listened to enough of these streams to recognize some of the tracks. Yeah. There's maybe like a handful of the sort of playlists that I listen to, so there definitely is some overlap. What I need to do is I need to sit and actually make a playlist of all of my favorites of his songs, because he has the individual videos. I'd like to actually do that at some point. We're pretty close to done for the evening here. I'm trying to get, I'd like to get to the point where the second station was working. And the station should be at 000 here. Let me just see. Real offset. All of this stuff should be working backwards. Set the position first. Almost done here. Almost done. Oh yeah, all this stuff does not go here. Yeah, that's where this stuff ended up. We just need the fake numbers here. Let's do this. So let's update that config to We're almost there. Unit. Yep. Almost right, except where is Unreal? Looks like we never set the position of Unreal. Huh? Bodies. Set them there. Let me just check a couple things, and then it's getting pretty late, so I should probably stop, but we're very close to having this up and running. There is just, yeah, there's some evidence here that one of these is set to 0. Station position should definitely be 0. Station should be entref. Oh. No, that's right. Yeah, so something is going on here where... Let's see here. This is a good track here. It's giving me that last little oomph here. Now see, those aren't zeros. So what gives there? Let's see here, moon, planet, maybe I've got them switched around. Moon, planet, planet, moon, yeah. There's, I think that's it. Yep, there we go. And it seems like we're in orbit. Are we in orbit? Yeah. There's that division by 0 again. There's something, I think there's something about I don't know what it is. There's something about my orbital elements calculation that I think broke. Or is it just that when I'm destroyed? That could be. It's just breaking when I'm destroyed. Let me fix that. Player dot empty. I bet that is it. I bet it's just coincidentally breaking when I die. Oh. Oh no! I'm spinning out of control. Okay, this is starting to look really good. And you know, we can all of this stuff should work, right? So if I want to do a bigger engagement size, yeah, see, now we're farther away, different ship. Okay, this is really sick to be able to actually interactively customize a scenario like this, and I can choose a different one, right? If I go back to this one, yeah, and see, this should be the yachts instead, and we can tweak things so the planets aren't in exactly the same positions, but this is basically working. So just to kind of wrap up here, I mean, see, did we make a complete mess of this to get it working? I don't think so. I think I don't even know if we need this factory anymore. Ship. Okay, yeah, that's for building these ships, right? We can get rid of this now. And this is fairly clean, right? We don't have tons of different things we're returning. This is all sort of reasonable. We want to be able to return a specific reference entity because in certain scenarios, you know, we might have more than just one, you know, ship that we would use. Let's just actually get this this type out here. So it's going to be a so we're going to have our ships, and we're going to have our skybox. We'll just call that a tuple, and we'll have our list of celestial body. Actually, this is going to be a tuple of vec3 and node path, and then fairly straightforward. This is, I think this all makes sense. I'm not seeing a lot of like unnecessary passing of stuff back and forth here. Doug Wise says, very cool. I'm not sure I've seen that many craft live at once in your scenarios. Yeah, there's that turret test scenario that's got like 8 or 10 ships. But that's kind of one of the fun parts of this, is that, you know, I want to start testing things, and if I can figure out a good way in the UI to do it, like instead of having individual ships here, we could have like wings, right? We could have like a wing of 4 of this kind of ship and, you know, 6 of this kind of ship. I mean, let's just go crazy here. Let's add a few of them and see what happens. So I think I have some I shouldn't probably use an auto because I don't know if it's gonna work. Some of these might not be too fleshed out, but and I don't know if you were here at the other stream, but it's kind of, there's some sort of nice things that happen with livery and the names of the ships. Let's actually give ourselves 2 of these. And that's the fun thing about building this, is like once you have things working, it's like you can just scale things up and it kind of works. I mean, it runs. They don't necessarily do intelligent things just because, but the one goofy thing that's happening here is everybody's just targeting me because I'm the first entity. For some reason now, something happened where this is actually running really slowly. And I'm not sure why, actually. If there's something that isn't getting cleaned up. Some of these, when you see the shield hits, look really cool. Yeah, like our frame rate is just really dropping. So this is probably the next thing to debug, is like, what is going on here with maybe I'm just, there's just tons of collisions happening and that's kind of slowing things down. Let me see if I can get away out of one of these. Oh. Let's just start this over. Because see, it's not that low a frame rate at the beginning. Actually, I can't start it over. Anyway, it's pretty late. I think I should probably call it good for the night, but I think we made some really nice progress on setting up the simulator to run different scenarios. I think we're moving towards some good abstractions for skybox versus ships, right? Where where we are sort of setting up the planets and things that we're going to use in one spot, and then in another spot we're putting them into position and setting up the orbital velocities, and we kind of have some, we're starting to get at some reusable pieces, like, okay, here's, you know, here's Venus, here's Uranus and one of its moons, here's, you know, eventually we'll have like Earth and its moon, right? I still would like to make some of this stuff a little bit more bulletproof in terms of like getting the orbital velocities and stuff properly, but I think, yeah, I think this is looking really good. So yeah, I mean, thanks to everybody who watched. It was a good stream, good turnout tonight. I'll probably be back sometime this weekend for another stream. I'm trying to get back into streaming more regularly, and man, we've made a lot of progress on this over the past few weeks and months. So hope everybody has a good night. I wish you all success in your creative projects, programming projects, whatever you're working on. Hope to see you again sometime soon. As always, thanks, Doug, for hanging out. It's always a pleasure. So have a good night, everyone.